I debated my anti-ICE friend. Let's go.
Chaos says, why aren't they doing activities like this in Texas and Florida? More than 1/3 of the illegal population, instead of cracking down deliberately on left cities. This is vote.
Me and Matt actually had a discussion about this last night. Out the gate, this is a good way to start. Me and Matt had a discussion about this last night. Why aren't they doing activities like this in Texas and Florida? Now, to be fair, I'll say the same thing that I told Matt. They were. Like, during the last summer and fall, there was massive ICE presence in Texas. The thing is, Republicans are fucking terrible at optics. So you had a massive ICE presence in Texas, and shit was getting done. And instead of celebrating it and putting all the good on all the billboards and like trying to build the optics of how awesome it was that you had state and city law enforcement aiding ICE, coming in, making the transition of getting these illegals the fuck out of here, instead of phrasing all that as an absolute win and just putting the optics out there for everybody, because shit was going good, they didn't fucking advertise it. So, like, yes, the whole why aren't they doing the activities in Texas? They were, and nobody fucking knows about it.
For intimidation, not an illegal immigration crackdown. They're doing that in Texas. I know for sure. Yeah, they're doing that in Texas, and the Texas is just complying with it.
Right. But most people don't know they're doing it in Texas because the Republicans are so fucking terrible at optics. They're not promoting the W's that are happening in Texas.
And like when people like get arrested in Texas, they put their hands up. So you haven't heard a thing. They're not like throwing shit at ICE as much over here. Yeah, there was a thing out of Austin. Wasn't there a thing out of Austin recently where there was a protester and like he got freaking instantly arrested? Like he instantly like just insta folded basically. Like when they were arresting him, he just like surrendered and then nothing happened. He didn't die, or there wasn't anyone getting shot. There wasn't like anyone getting, their face broken. Like yeah, ICE is intimidating civilians by killing them unless you are saying they aren't killing civilians. Wait.
Okay, hold on. Let's break this down. ICE is intimidating civilians by killing them unless you're saying they aren't killing civilians. Just because there's been some civilian deaths doesn't mean they are intimidating civilians, as in like that is their objective. If civilians are feeling intimidated, that's kind of on them. You shouldn't have motherfuckers be trying to run over ICE agents with their cars. Maybe you won't get fucking shot. It's that simple. Now, if people are feeling intimidated by that, maybe they should be asking the question, yo, why y'all motherfuckers trying to run over ICE agents with your goddamn car? Like, ICE agent shows up in my city, I'm gonna feel a lick of intimidation. Now, one, on account of, but on the other hand, because they ain't gonna do shit to me, because I ain't gonna do shit to them. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing.
Wait, ICE is intimidating civilians? Are we looking at the same thing, Chaos? Like, I'm just so confused. Like, ICE is intimidating civilians by killing them? So do you think that if like none of this stuff happened that made things so much more dangerous for ICE, do you think that they would just shoot people? Like, I'm just confused. Like, where are you getting this from? I'm trying to bring it up. One sec, chat. Yeah, ICE is intimidating civilians by killing them unless you're saying they aren't killing civilians? Nobody's dying anywhere else. It's basically in places where hardcore harassing ICE and making a dangerous situation. Like, if they protested peacefully, none of this would happen. Because ICE is violating people's constitutional rights. How so?
How? Exactly, Leaflit. Yeah, how so? Explain to me how ICE is violating people's constitutional rights.
Oh, you mean illegals? Cass, you mean illegals? Who are you talking about? What constitutional right do you mean? Oxide says, I'm glad we have all these experts that... all of these experts that have extensive experience in high intensity, high stress situations. That's kind of what I mean. That's what I've been saying. Is that...
Well, that's not true, Pranapout. It is not only citizens that are covered by the Constitution. Like, let's say that you are a tourist to America. Let's say that you came to America on vacation from Italy. When you are here, you have constitutional protections. You do. Like anybody who is within the country has constitutional protections. Now, that being said, when you want to talk about things like due process and whatnot, due process doesn't just immediately mean you sit in jail, you wait for your trial, you go like the whole nine. Due process is a very broad terminology. The due process for illegals is they get deported. That is still due process. Like, they did the research, they found out they're illegal, they kick them the fuck out. So it is true that everybody on American soil illegal or not, has constitutional protections, that doesn't mean that they are granted all the same privileges as, and privileges and constitutional protections are different. Doesn't mean they're granted all the same privileges as citizens.
Like we're all looking at this situation from the point of view, from the safety of our own homes, where we can stop, pause, freeze frame literally every single thing. When all of this happened in like a couple seconds.
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
To be fair, Chaos tangentially knows the guy, so he's a little pissed. This is such cope. You can see the officer in the gray shirt disarm Alex, and afterwards another ICE agent mag dumps him and executes him in cold blood.
Yeah, and like, okay, if you think this was an unjustified killing, they're doing an investigation. Like, if you think this is an unjustified killing, which to be fair, this one actually might be. I ain't even gonna front. This one seems like it might be an unjustified killing. Not even gonna front. But they're doing an investigation. The act of one officer, the act of one officer does not mean you shut the whole fucking thing down. Like, by and large, ICE doing a lot of good work. Frankly, they're not doing enough, in my opinion, but they're doing a lot of good work. You don't let, just like again, we've had this onslaught as of late. We've had an onslaught of female teachers fucking they male students, right? Over the last several years, we have seen more and more and more articles about like, yo, we had this 33-year-old teacher fucking her 15-year-old male student, and now she's going to jail and going to prison, and her husband's divorcing her, and all this shit. That don't mean you get rid of fucking teachers, right? Like,
there's nothing but explicit tyranny by the state. If you're saying that Alex deserved this, the entire crowd of January 6th deserved death. So I'm just confused. Did we see the same video? The officer in the gray shirt disarms Alex. Afterwards,
the amount of rounds alone was excessive. Again, if it is a justified shooting, then not at all. If it is a justified shooting, in general, then the amount of bullets don't matter. You continue shooting until the threat is confirmed to no longer be a threat. Mag dumps are incredibly common in any sort of law enforcement altercation where deadly force is required.
another ICE agent mag dumps him and executes him in cold blood. Do you think that there's no other plausible explanation, Chaos? Just out of curiosity. Wait, but you read Umineko. I'm so confused. Like, how come you're like dropping all of your, why are you dropping all of your possibility to see alternate truths? Like the alternate possibilities. Why are you dropping it specifically for this scenario? Cornflake, thank you for the gift sub, thank you. Because it's coming from an emotionally charged and biased mindset. That's what I'm asking. It seems to me that you skipped all other possible explanations for it and went specifically for the one that you wanted. That's what it seems like to me. The thing is, here's the thing. This administration is accusing Alex of being an assassin, brandishing a firearm, and going out with the intent to kill officers when there is nothing in the footage that demonstrates this happening. Okay.
Actually, there is. Now, maybe not the brandishing of firearm part, right? Maybe not the brandishing of firearm part. If what we're seeing from reports is that he actually brandished a cell phone. However, the way he was holding the cell phone, pretend that this remote control right here is a gun, or is a cell phone, right? If the reports are true, and again, there needs to be an investigation done. This very well could be an unlawful killing. I'm not denying that one way or the other. But if the report is true, dude has a black cell phone, and he pulls it out like this to record what's going on with the camera facing. Now, if you're an ICE agent, and there's a riot going on, and you see someone pull out a black device like this, it is conceivable to think homie may have just whipped out a blicky. So, as far as him being like an assassin or whatnot, dude was in full paramilitary gear, was affiliated with basically a militia, a paramilitary outfit that is ran by citizens. When you show up to an event like that, to a quote unquote protest, when the protest is against law enforcement in general, yeah, shit might get dicey. It is in the best interest of people to not fucking go to an event like that, and definitely don't go in paramilitary gear with firearms.
But is there anything in the footage that demonstrates that he was executed for no reason other than that they wanted to kill him? I have no doubt that when an event like this happens, that people will
Donut operator said it was lawful but awful. And again, that might be the case. Like, I don't know, because I think this one can go either way. This is a real gray area in terms of the shooting, right? The execution of Peretti or whatever is a real gray area. Unlike, and again, this is something me and Matt were talking about last night. Unlike in the Renee Good case, we had several vantage points, several viewpoints. We had the body cam footage. It was all in crystal clear quality. Like, it was very obvious that the Renee Good case was a justified shooting. The problem with this one, we ain't got all the info. All the footage we have is grainy. It's out of focus. The quality is terrible. Like, at this point, it is all speculation, which is why I think that an investigation into this one does need to be done. It could end up going either way. Like, maybe it was 100% lawful. And like, operator would say, lawful but awful. I don't know. But let's look at the worst case. Even if it was unlawful, let's not pretend that that's the fucking norm. Let's not pretend we've just had this rampant onslaught of unlawful killings by ICE. That's just, statistically, that doesn't bear out.
Immediately go towards a partisan view. I agree. But what I'm saying is, can you not see all of the possibilities within what happened? Maybe the gun to his head after he was already disarmed. Okay, Chaos. Can you not see a situation? All right, hold on. So you're telling me that because his gun was disarmed, you can't see any other possible situation in which like they would consider him a threat? Even if I were to accept your premise, right? If I were to accept that as truth.
Yeah, Travis Condon says, I believe Sig went off, officers let go of him, then he reaches. Now, again, let's say what he reached for, like some of the reports are saying, was his black cell phone, not a gun. If you had just gotten released from federal law enforcement, and then you pull out a black cell phone like this to record, it is completely, in my opinion, justifiable to have the split-second thought process that could be a firearm. Full stop. And if it's not, it was unfortunate that a motherfucker was killed. But again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Maybe you shouldn't have been there with a paramilitary crew in a paramilitary outfit with what reports do seem to convey that he did have a firearm. Even if that's not what he pulled out, that he had one. When you as an officer see someone reaching for something, you got some split-second decisions to make. Now, whether it was unfortunate or not is kind of irrelevant.
If I were to accept that as the red truth, does that mean that all of the other blue truths don't exist? That there's no other possibility? Can you see any other action by Alex in the video that demonstrates him
exactly the most you can have?
There's a possibility that he had another weapon. There were people saying that he had a magazine in his hand, that he like pulled a magazine. He was still resisting. There's the possibility that the SIG did go off, and then that combined with him resisting made them think he was shooting. There's a lot of different possibilities here that aren't execution. He could have had another weapon. Can be applied to anyone. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be. Listen, I'm not even saying high stress doesn't give you casus belli to execute citizens, especially when you deliberately place yourself in danger. Wait, high stress doesn't. Wait, it wasn't just high stress though. What are you talking about? It wasn't just high stress.
Also, what do you mean when you deliberately place yourself in danger? Dude, this chatter is retarded. This Chaos Shield chatter is retarded. When you deliberately play, they're doing their job. These are law enforcement officers on an operation. They're not deliberately placing themselves in danger. They are there to do their fucking job. The person that deliberately placed themselves in danger was the fucking protester.
It was a person with a gun. It was a person with a gun that was resisting officers. What do you mean? This has nothing to do with it specifically being high stress. That's not the only factor here. Can you send it to me again? Especially when you deliberately place yourself in danger. Wait, what do you mean? Are you talking about ICE deliberately placing themselves in danger? I'm confused. Because couldn't I use that exact same argument the other way around?
No, not only could you use the argument the other way around, it's valid. It's not valid the way that the chatter has proposed it. It is only valid the other way around. What up, R Buffalo?
He didn't deserve anything? You're talking about Renee Good? No.
And the most, yeah, that's why I said protester.
Renee got shot because she hit an officer with a car, a deadly weapon. And I've seen people argue that when he took follow-up...
Oh, wait, he's talking about Renee Good. Renee Good was absolutely justified. What is this chatter talking about? Renee Good was absolutely justified.
...up shots, he had sidestepped the car when he had taken follow-up shots. And if you consider how fast that entire thing happened, once you commit to shooting somebody, it's not like... the ability, it's reasonable for the ability to stop at that position is like not as easy as you claim it is. There's a lot of things that you can say around that. And also like, also why did you just switch the argument to Renee, like out of nowhere? Like, I'm just confused. It takes longer.
For very obvious reasons. Because when people are on the back foot and when they're losing an argument, they're going to change the parameters of the argument. That way they can try and get some semblance of being the victor or coming out on top. Or at the very least, obfuscating. That way they can try and convince you that you were wrong in all the arguments that you were making. Like, it is just pure manipulation. It takes longer to unholster, aim, and fire a weapon than it takes to move his hand out of the way. Okay. A, you are dealing with somebody that possibly has a weapon. Moving their hand out of the way may or may not. Let's say you move their hand out of the way and they've got a weapon. Alright, there's still a weapon in their hand that they can discharge into other ICE officers or civilians, potentially on themselves, whatever it may be. Also, as far as it takes longer to unholster, aim, and fire a weapon, I tend to disagree. Again, as somebody that did extensive marksmanship training during the academy and whatnot, let me tell you, you can do that shit, especially if you practiced, pretty fucking quick.
To unholster, aim, and fire a weapon than it takes to move his hand out of the way. Well, I mean, you're speaking from a position where you're sitting at home and you are looking at the situation you are looking at the situation in relative comfort.
These motherfuckers seen too many movies, dude. These motherfuckers seen too many movies. Thinking you're like, oh, you can shoot them in the hand to knock the gun out of their arm or whatever. Like, these people. Real life ain't fucking Hollywood, alright? This ain't Neo and you're like dodging bullets and shit, okay? You have milliseconds to make a decision that could impact not only your life and not only the life of the individual who may be in the process of attempting to take another's life, yours or otherwise, but you also have a bunch of other civilians around you, which even if they disagree with you, even if they're protesting against you, even if they hate your fucking guts, it is your job to protect and serve them. Like, it doesn't matter. People could be protesting ICE and throwing shit at them and screaming and cursing, and it is your job as an officer to grit your teeth and take it because you're there to protect and serve them. And when one of those dumb motherfuckers potentially whips out a blicky, some accidents may occur, and you got just microseconds to figure out how to dissolve this with minimal casualty.
With the ability to rewind the footage and pause the footage. When the officer is currently in a high-stress environment in which his life could be at stake at any time. But yeah, why did you change this? Why did you change the thing? Like, we weren't talking about Renee.
I also agree that every single citizen deserves the Second Amendment. I don't know if you're arguing against me on this point or not. The argument for the Second Amendment doesn't justify potentially violating the rights of others via an unlawful discharge of that weapon that you legally own via the Second Amendment, which could cause the injunction on other people's rights when that firearm is discharged. Like, it's that simple. You can own a gun. You can't use the gun you own for illegal shit.
We were talking about Alex. Why did you switch it in the middle of the conversation? In the middle of my point. This is feeling like a Page Shill moment in which he placed himself in front of a lethal weapon deliberately. He put... Oh, sorry. I thought this was the Renee one. So hold on. Just out of curiosity. So you're admitting that it's a lethal weapon then, correct? I just want a confirmation. You're agreeing that it's a lethal weapon then, right? It's non-lethal until it's in someone's hands. Did the person have their hands on the steering wheel, Tazuto? This debate's worse than Hassan. You know, chat, being in the middle of things is agony, to be honest, chat. The truth is, I feel like I'm being pretty reasonable. The things that are happening. I'm not like, You know, I'm not saying like Poggers Renee died, Poggers Alex died. I'm not even saying that. I'm being I think I'm being pretty reasonable. And it's like, at no point was it driven in a way that would be dangerous had the officer not deliberately placed himself in harm's way. Can you answer the question, Chaos? Yes or no? According to what you said, is a car a lethal weapon? I'll answer after you answer my question. I just want to verify that you said that, and that's what you mean. No, at the velocity he was hit, not even fast enough to make him drop the cell phone, her vehicle isn't a lethal weapon. If you say that as by that logic, literally any object is a lethal weapon.
Yes, exactly. Most objects can be... Dude, you could throw a fucking textbook, a science textbook from your fucking 9th grade physics class at a motherfucker, and you couldn't kill them. Yeah, people found pretty creative ways to end the lives of other motherfuckers. Like, why do you still have murder going on in the UK despite the fact that at this point, even knives are taboo? You still got people die. Yeah, because any object can be a lethal weapon. Of goddamn course, the car was a lethal weapon. Because, like, even if they're driving real slow, you're talking about it was an SUV, right? It was an SUV, so we're talking, I don't know, what's the weight of an average SUV? I'd reckon over 1,000 pounds. Weight of average SUV. 2,000 to over 6,000 pounds. So it doesn't matter how fucking slow they were going. If they hit with enough force to knock him over, which could be as low as like 5 miles an hour or something, and then continue to drive, the weight of that vehicle would crush a motherfucker. Yes, that is a deadly weapon. Absolutely.
So do you retract your last point then? Because you said this. What is this about then? Why did you say this? Are you just, is this a concession for this? Like you don't agree with this anymore? At no point was it driven in a way that could be dangerous had the officer not deliberately placed himself in harm's way. Do you think that a car...
That is the job, by the way, of officers. To put themselves in harm's way to protect those that would otherwise be in harm's way. By the way, if I recall, and this was a couple weeks ago, so I could be misremembering, but if I recall, he didn't deliberately put himself in harm's way. Doesn't the video footage show her realigning her vehicle to line up with him? Not vice versa?
Could do great bodily harm at that distance, out of curiosity. You don't think it's possible? Do you think it's possible? Hi, Sword Coyer, how's it going? So, Leaflit, what's the formula for a cop to know when a car truly becomes a weapon? I'm getting there. Saw her turning away from...
Here's the formula for when a car becomes a lethal weapon. When it's fucking driving at you. Or the other motherfuckers that you're supposed to be protecting and whatnot. But, like, when it's driving at you.
From him, Kazuto, you're speaking from a position of replay. You're looking back in time from an unstressed position, from your chair at home safe, when you weren't there. Like, you don't understand how fast these things happen. Thank you, Wildly Awesome, by the way, for the Prime. And Rognar, thank you for the bits. The problem now is allowing the left to survive this administration will lead to them getting power again. And we all know you have no qualm about oppressing normal people. They aren't fellow citizens. They are effectively enemy combatants. Yes. Okay, so you think that, so it is possible. So if you're saying yes, a car can deal great bodily harm, that's actually the standard. That's actually the standard for lethal force. It doesn't have to be lethal. So even if we were to assume that there was no threat of lethal force, the threat of great bodily harm is already enough of a standard to enact lethal force. That's what I said, chat, that I was getting to it. So then it would be then, in that case,
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
tell me where it's the duty of an ICE agent to step out in front of vehicles.
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
I got this.
These people are so fucking stupid, bro.
Chat, just give me a second.
Yes, a rock can be used as a lethal weapon. Here's the funny thing about rocks, right? Now, I ain't too knowledgeable about my history and shit, but I doth recall this famous story. The story of, what were their names? Alright, Cain and Abel. And if I do recall correctly, a rock was kind of the very first lethal weapon. Like in the history of all lethal weapons, a rock was the first.
So according to your logic then, give me a second. I'm trying to find the most effective. I guess the most obvious one might be the most effective here. I'm taking my time because I know Chaos has done like debate stuff before, like formal debate in school. I haven't. So I have to assume all of his possible. There's so many angles I can go at this from. I guess the simple angle here would be Chaos is, does the ICE agent being in front of the car, does that resign him to death? Does that justify running him over? ICE is performing their duties is justice. ICE.
It was a donkey's jawbone. Yeah, okay, yeah. Goliath used a bone, if I recall. My bad.
Deporting people is their function, and that is what. If you want to talk about democracy, and you want to talk about things like insurrection, like how can you simultaneously claim that January 6th was insurrection and claim that this isn't? Because January 6th has during a transfer of power. What does that have to do with anything? In fact, I could argue right now that that this also deals with power. Or is that going over everyone's head?
Travis Compton says hasn't seen Supernatural. Bro, I guarantee you I've seen more Supernatural than you. Bro, when season 2 was airing, I met Jared Padalecki. I mean, we talking all the way back in like 2007. I met Jared Padalecki, and Fred Lane, the guy that does the voice of Yellow Eyes, Jim Beaver, the guy that does the voice of, I said the voice because I'm so fucking used to talking about anime. The guy that acts for Yellow Eyes, the guy was the actor for Bobby. I've been watching Supernatural since season 1. I was a early adopter of Supernatural. We used to live in fear of that show being canceled every single season because it didn't get any promotion at all, dude. Most people didn't jump on the Supernatural bandwagon until it hit fucking Netflix. I've been watching that shit since it aired in 2005.
Yeah, Tazato.
It should have ended with season 5, not 10, Butter Framed in Gold. After Eric Kripke left, because Eric Kripke only wanted 5 seasons. He had a story to tell, and that story was told. After season 5, the shit should have been done. Everything after season 5 is fucking fan fiction. Sarah Gamble took over. She's an awful fucking writer. She's the worst type of writer. Likes to kill motherfuckers for the shot value and just the sake of killing them. Like that was like point numero uno when I started thinking maybe women shouldn't be in charge of shit because she was fucking terrible. But yeah, point is, we're supposed to be talking about ICE and whatnot, but yeah, your boy OG Supernatural fan.
Everything goes over my head. Good argument. I would say Steelman to your argument would be that we don't know. Chaos says there are many actions that you can take to resign you to death. So by your logic then, anyone that stands in front of a car for any reason is resigned to death. Is that true? Is that what you're...
At this point, this individual is being obtuse for the sake of being obtuse. They're not making a logical argument. They're throwing out anything they can to try and find a gotcha on Leaflit. Like, that's all this is. There is no coherent or logical argument here. It is purely emotion-based attempts at manipulation. I don't know that I would call it a straw man per se, because I don't see them actually reframing Leaflit's argument. But yeah, this is Chaos Shield is either trolling, is incredibly retarded, probably a bit of both, or flat out doesn't understand how to debate.
You're saying? I'm going somewhere with this.
War Wizard, the reason I was unable to meet Jensen Ackles is because at the time of the convention he was filming My Bloody Valentine.
Who the fuck is Leaflit? Who the fuck is Leaflit?
Hey, Baxter. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. How you doing?
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
Hope you had a good stream. Thank you so much. Wait, who the fuck is Leaflit? Is that Asmon's voice? Yeah, it is. It's literally a clip from Asmon's stream.
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
He literally said that on stream.
Who the fuck is Leaflit? Who the fuck is Leaflit?
Thank Niara for that clip. True. Thank you, Baxter. Again, thank you. Looks like you're dealing with big brains here. Yeah. Well, the thing is if it were like a regular viewer, I probably would have moved on already. But Chaos is like a person that's been my friend for a long time, and I kind of have to answer to him saying I'm a shit person. You know, I feel like I have to defend myself. Again, you deflect. It doesn't matter. It's not deflection. I'm literally responding.
I want to hear Leafit's answer this. Hopefully she answers it adequately. Where's the duty of ICE to stand in front of vehicles? Because like, if she doesn't, I can give a very easy application of said duty.
To one of your points, right? Like, let's go look here.
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
The reason why I'm not addressing it is because I want to address this point first. I can answer your question later. You're basically presenting two different lines of thought, separate lines of thought, and I do not want to engage with both at the same time. I'm not deflecting. I'm literally
Exactly, that's not deflection. That is how you are supposed to handle debate. Now, granted, Chaos Shield here clearly doesn't understand a debate, doesn't understand the rules of engagement, doesn't know how a debate is supposed to go. It's also a little bit different since this is via text and speaking live and whatnot, as opposed to both people, because there's going to be a delay and whatnot, as opposed to actually doing a sanctioned debate where both people are debating in real time with one another. But even so, yeah, Leaflet's doing what you should do during a debate, which is address everything point by point instead of jumping around.
talking about what you're talking about, because your claim is that he stood in front of the car, right? Here's the line of logic he has, okay? Why is the officer putting himself in danger? There are many actions that you can take to resign you to death. If I try, what is this about? What is this about if it's not what I'm talking about? So you're just wrong. I'm not deflecting. I'm literally talking about what you're talking about. You are bringing up this point and this line, but it's a completely different line. I'm arguing with this line right now. You can't, if you were to present multiple points for me to argue against when they are both arguable in isolation, why would I want to argue both simultaneously when they could diverge to completely different paths, and it would force us to argue about two things simultaneously when we could only argue about one thing? So I'm going to default back to what I said here and say, does that resign you to death then? If you're equating this to standing in front of a car, then does standing in front of a car equate you? Does that mean that any action after that leads to your death is justified? Is that what you're saying? Because you're equating a person being behind the wheel of a car to a passive disaster action. So while I could have said that while I could have taken the route of telling you that this is a false equivalence, what if I accept your equivalence? You're the one that said this, not me. You claim this.
Well, I mean, yeah, but look, when you're doing a debate, ceding ground on certain things is not bad at all. Like you should cede ground. When you cede ground on certain points, it actually makes you look better in the debate because it makes you look like the more reasonable one. You can see the point here, you can see the point there, but as long as that gives you the opportunity to take the high ground in other parts where you're actually making your argument, and it will make your argument stronger. I would not cede the ground on this one. If I chopped down a tree and stood in its path as it fell, I wouldn't blame the tree, because you've only got one subject in this portion of the debate. You only got one subject, and also the point of a hypothetical is it needs to be analogous to the situation in which you're comparing it to for the hypothetical. So in this instance, it's not even analogous. You're a single individual that is chopping down a tree. You're making the active decision to then effectively commit suicide by log, and you step in front of the tree. In this instance, you had two parties involved that are in opposition to one another, and one of them's job is by default to put themselves in harm's way by nature of the ideology of serve and protect, which is part of the duty and part of the job of being a law enforcement officer. So these are not analogous. You shouldn't see this, but even if she does, I don't necessarily know that it's going to make a huge difference.
It's not me, by the way. This isn't what I believe. I'm working through your own mental framework. Cheer up, please. I feel like this is the first real fight I've had in a long time. I didn't really count all of my other debates as actual combat. This feels like it's real. If you admit it, if you accept it, you admit I circled her car and put themselves in dangerous positions so they would have...
Yes. Putting yourself in a dangerous position does not justify you being murdered, or even attempt to murder, or attempt bodily harm, if it is part of your job to put yourself in the dangerous position. Let's take ICE out of this, right? Let's use something that actually maps onto this properly. Let's use something else that is a job. Working on oil rigs. Actually, let's do one even better. Working with under ocean, pipe works. It's an incredibly dangerous job, right? It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. There's horror stories of people getting sucked into the pipes, getting stuck in there, drowning, suffocating, starving because they can't get out. It is horrifying stuff. So by nature of doing that job, if you were to die doing so, does it make the death justifiable just because it is part of your job? No, it does not make the death justifiable. Now, there's a risk assessment proposition, like, is the work worth the risk? But if the worst were to happen, that doesn't mean it's justifiable, especially when there's other factors. Maybe your tools were faulty because the individual that was supposed to be checking them didn't do a good job. Maybe the maintenance that is supposed to have been done on the pipe wasn't being properly maintained by somebody else at the job. You've got all these other factors, so you can't just say, yes, it's justifiable because it's a difficult job.
Casus belli to use lethal force. Let's say that's true. Do you then admit then that all protesters who stand in front of ICE vehicles deserve to be run over? That are you saying that we should just kill all of them because they stood in front of the car, right? So any protester that stands in front of a car deserves to be run over. Do you agree with that, or do you retreat? You could go so far as to say that they should have just rammed her car when she blocked the road. She was in the way. Please don't gaslight. I'm not gaslighting. I'm trying to see if Chaos's logic is consistent. Because if he thinks that about the ICE agent,
yeah, but this Chaos idiot says that's entrapment. No, that's not what entrapment means at all. Entrapment doesn't mean literally trapping somebody. Entrapment is accusing somebody or arresting somebody or whatnot of a crime based on false pretenses that are illegally set up by law enforcement. That's what entrapment is. No, literally circling a vehicle that is violating a lawful operation is not entrapment. They see the word entrapment and think that it means like a physical trap. No, entrapment is basically, again, false pretenses planned out in advance unlawfully by law enforcement that lead to an arrest.
then he has to think that about other people too. That's entrapment, no, not in the legal sense, but the moral one. Wait, was that to what I said? I can't tell. If that was
Wait, not in the legal sense, but what the fuck do you mean by the moral one? What? Entrapment by the moral sense? You're just making shit up. This Chaos Shield person is fucking retarded.
part of your last thing? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, you said that a while ago. Okay. It would depend on the moral urgency of the situation.
Yes, exactly. Lone Revolver. Governor Whitmer's kidnapping case was entrapment. Brilliant example.
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
It would depend on the moral urgency of the situation, would it not? So what you mean then is that none of this matters? It would depend on the moral urgency of the situation. Can you give an example? Because then so what you said here is not real. So you're back.
Moral urgency is irrelevant. The law is what matters. The law and how the law should be applied to the situation. Moral urgency is some sort of subjective, arbitrary metric that's going to change person to person. That is completely irrelevant.
Tracking on what you said earlier. Okay, we'll wait for this song to finish. It isn't urgent to make an arrest on Renee Good and put themselves in harm's way when they can take her plate and get a warrant. Why? She's right there right now.
Yeah, by this idiot's logic, why stop a bank robbery? Why would the police stop a bank robbery when it's happening if you can just get the license plate of the getaway car and get a warrant later? No, an active crime is happening. Crime prevention is part of the fucking job of law enforcement. Like, this isn't even exclusive to ICE. This is all law enforcement. What the... I'm truly baffled at this dumb motherfucker's perception of law enforcement in general.
I don't get your point.
Like, and I'm curious, because if you flip the script and you just use regular fucking cops or a backwoods down-home sheriff, would they use the same logic, or are they doing this because they're so fucking blinded by their hatred of ICE?
To be honest, she's literally in the act of the crime. So like hold on. So according to your logic, what you're saying is that unless the crime is a deadly force, it shouldn't be immediately enforced.
Well, even if that's this person's logic, the crime was deadly force. So like even if you go by that metric, this is what happened here. That's why this was a open and shut case of a lawful shooting.
said that she feared for her life. If that's your logic, then can't the cop use the same logic to shoot her? If she's allowed to use deadly force because she feared for her life, why can't the cop? Like, this doesn't even make sense. This is the problem. Is like you guys aren't consistent. Like, what you actually believe is not consistent. That's the problem. It's only based on who the person is. And then like when I turn it around and I use your exact same logic against people on your own side, you immediately backtrack all the time. I would say, listen, if you flip this, okay? If you flip this and if we flip the situation around, then I would say the same thing. If you
Not only that, again, these people have no internal logic. That is purely partisan politics. Because if you flip this script, right? If you flip this script and you had some crazed MAGA individual who's like super anti-abortion, and there's cops outside an abortion clinic that he wants to protest, and he attempts to drive into the officer wearing his fucking Make America Great Again hat, and the officer discharges, you know for goddamn certain this chaos shield would be like, no, justifiable shooting. Guy shouldn't have been trying to wear his MAGA hat driving into an anti-abortion protest into a cop. Like, you know absolutely he would take the cop's side in this. There is no... Not only is there a lack of consistency amongst the left, the lack of consistency is intentional, and it is purely for the benefit of partisan politics.
If a right-wing person tried to run over an officer, and the officer shot them, I would say the same thing. Now, would I take it so far? You think ICE has the authority to...
You say you don't believe it's purely partisan. I believe their value is driver emotion rather than logic. That's why they're so inconsistent. Right, but that stems from the partisan aspect. They have been brainwashed via this partisan ideology that has led them to have to jump through all these mental loopholes to come up with their worldview, which leads to the inconsistency. Like the partisan aspect is due to emotional manipulation, which then leads to the logical inconsistencies.
Surround people. ICE has the authority to arrest people that are impeding in their investigations. Because, so not all federal agents are ICE, but all ICE are federal agents. Because of that, ICE has any authority that federal agents do to arrest people that are impeding in their duties. They actually do have powers to prevent people from breaking the law.
Chaos, and this is where Chaos Shield loses the debate. Full stop, loses the debate. I'm not interested in the law. I'm interested in the moral argument. Well, for one, there has been no groundwork laid for why you believe that this would even be morally incorrect. You have not given a moral framework for your argument beyond my preferences. I don't like that this happened. You actually need some sort of objective moral framework to even start with. But discounting that you didn't do that properly, I'm interested in the moral argument, is irrelevant because this is an argument of legality. Because the question is, was it a lawful shooting? Lawfulness entails legality. It is that laws can be immoral. Okay, they can, but that, again, that's irrelevant because the question is, was it a lawful shooting? Not was it a moral shooting? Yeah, where are the morals based? You haven't even made a moral argument to begin with. We don't even know the premise, the foundation of your morals. So you can't make a moral argument in a debate when you've given, you can, but that's a surefire way to lose.
Not interested in the law, you're interested in the moral argument. The moral argument of what? What is their moral authority to arrest people? The moral authority is that they're upholding the law, which was democratically agreed on. Stop. Okay. Stop. Okay. You're already deflecting. Okay.
That's not deflecting. That is actually a brilliant answer. Was the moral authority to do so? Well, the moral authority is to uphold the law that was democratically agreed upon by the populace. That is a brilliant argument for moral authority if they're going to use if they're going to use that as the baseline. Absolutely. How is that deflecting? He asked what the moral authority is, and she said because this was the democratically agreed upon will of the populace, which means that would be the majority populace agreed moral standpoint. The idea that he would call this deflecting is this is fucking... is gaslighting the right word? Would this be gaslighting?
All right, go ahead. Explain it better. What do you mean you're interested in the moral argument? What part?
Who the fuck is Leaflit?
No, I'm trying to be in good faith. If you're saying I'm deflecting, then tell me what you want me to answer specifically. Do you think ICE has the authority to surround people, bark conflicting orders, put themselves in the most dangerous position possible, and then if they rightfully panic, or do anything fundamentally human? See, like, dude, this question, it has so much shit baked into it. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, fundamentally human? Like,
yeah, she is absolutely right to be calling out these subjective, arbitrary terms that don't do anything aside from, again, make an emotional argument. It's set dressing, right? It's just flowery words to sound morally superior. There is no coherent argument in this whatsoever.
What? What does that even mean? Like, what?
I think we're clipping this segment into a video. More people need to see this. What the fuck?
What does this mean? Like, you're just saying shit, bro. Why are they accelerating the situation? Why do they need to speedrun the arrest? Because
it is not speedrunning an arrest. Laws were broken. Arrests must be done. That is how fucking arrests work. Now, it probably would have just been an arrest had the dumb sumbitch not tried to drive her fucking car into a law enforcement officer.
the crime is occurring right in front of them. The crime is occurring right in front of them, and it is impeding on their duties. Also, it's possible they wanted to arrest her for a while now. It's possible she was involved in other things. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And when you mean speed run the arrest, you mean they walked up to her car and said, "Get out of the car"? That's pretty basic. What is the police supposed to do? How much slower could they have done it? They got out.
Guys, as somebody who has done both the arresting and been on the other side of being arrested, let me tell you, this is a very normal procedure, people saying to get out of the fucking car. Like, what the fuck does this dude want?
Of the car, they walked up to her, they said, "Get out of the car. You're under arrest." And then she tried to run one of them over. Like, what? What are you talking about? I didn't know you typed so slow, Chaos. You know this song, Classically? Yeah, it is kind of an old one, yeah. The issue really is that it's like I said, you guys don't have any consistent, like what you believe is not consistent. Like, there's no way you would.
Correct. You want to arrest real quick. Either you get cut loose or go to jail. Who wants to sit there handcuffed to... Exactly. And let me tell you, anytime an arrest has occurred in my vicinity, again, be it me doing the arresting or me being the one being arrested, that shit's always been pretty fucking quick. Like, you want expeditiousness, right? You want things to be pretty fucking simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. The least amount of bureaucracy will always be the most amount of efficiency.
Think this for any other law. Like, there's no way you'd think this for any other law. Like I don't understand where this is coming from. It's like, because it's ICE enforcement, all of a sudden there's like all of these moral hurdles that are thrown in the way, that like it has to be done in a very specific, like ultra clean way because of that. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, where did this come from? Like, you wouldn't say that about someone stealing something from a store. You wouldn't be like, well, he's just stealing something from a store. Like, well, you know,
yeah, well, people have the right to a speedy trial. That's true. But again, the U.S. didn't invent bureaucracy, but we sure as fuck perfected it, Zax.
Just let him get away with it and then, like, get him later. Like, what? What are we talking about here? Like, none of this is consistent. Just saw today that the 8th Circuit of Court of Appeals rules in favor of Trump allowing ICE agents to arrest, detain, pepper spray, or retaliate against violent ICE rioters in Minneapolis without probable cause. Sorry, guys, I had to take that argument because he told me I was a bad person. He said I was a disgusting person, so I had to take this argument. I totally would say that if officers had the means to already identify the individual, but I digress. Normally, when an officer makes an arrest in urgency, they do so as a result of pre-existing danger. For example, a drunk driver presents a greater danger to other motorists if they aren't arrested. So what you're saying is that if there's a criminal who does something, they should let them go and then instigate a second. But couldn't that be more dangerous? Because
not yes. As, hey, I know you just robbed this liquor store. Give me your name and information, and we're gonna let you go. And then a few days later, we're going to send some officers to your house, which hopefully you'll be at. Hopefully you won't be armed. Hopefully you'll comply then. Or again, we'll waste precious manpower and resources and taxpayer money to fund a manhunt if you're not at that house. And then we send more officers to your mom's house, to your baby mama's house, to your friend's house, where, again, people could be armed and dangerous, where you might not be alone, where you might have multiple other individuals all waiting, in the wait for, all with weapons and whatnot, to blow the 2 cops away we send for the follow-up, like, this logic, I shouldn't call it logic, because it's the antithesis to logic. This is pure mental retardation.
Now you're involving like a house that has probably people in it or other situations. What's the difference in danger? Yeah, like right now they know where the person is and they have ID on their actual person, whereas in another scenario they wouldn't have they wouldn't, first off, they wouldn't have violence of action in order to like immediately subdue them. And in the other cases, we don't know if they would take defensive measures. So I don't even know if I agree with your premise in the first place, to be honest. I think it's a flawed premise.
Yeah, that was an excellent video. That was an excellent video. I'll drop it in the chat for you guys. Give a like, give a sub if you haven't already. But that was, again, people like this are real. They exist. There are people out there that for whatever reason believe that we can just let criminals go unapprehended, and we can just let them do them, and that all the idea of law enforcement is inherently evil. Now again, I'm a libertarian dude. I'm not exactly a fan of cops. I think that they are dogs of the state, and they'll do whatever the state tells them. Hey, you're not wearing your mask, and you've got your business open during COVID. Time to get arrested, buddy. I'm all for privatized police, again, and cat that I am. But that doesn't alter the fact that there needs to be some concept of law and order. There needs to be something that that works. And you've got people out here that actively advocate against that, and they aren't just online LARPers. It's fucking insane.